in 1913. So he would have been 24. That's when he got here. Went out to Illinois, and it's a little murky what he did out there because his two brothers were out there. Both of them had kids. His oldest brother had a daughter in the old country and brought her over, Esther. I remember her. But she was the first of four, and his brother had a son, another daughter, and another son. He had four kids. This is his oldest brother out there.
Okay.
Then the guy in Geneva, I don't know if you ever met him.
Just once.
Yeah, he had a hell of a nice sense of humor. Anyway, he was out there. And Jim, his son, all three of them named their firstborn sons after their father, Vincent. Except my mother wouldn't put Vincent on my birth certificate. Mine is James. Well, I thought Jim in Geneva was James. He says, no, it's Vincent. But his mother, neither his mother and father could write, read and write. Where my mother was born and raised here. And
Right.
She did a pretty good job writing. So, why they were out there, I don't know. But his oldest brother stayed, and his brother next to him came back in Geneva. I know why there. His sister-in-law was here. His wife's sister was here in Geneva, and she wanted to be next to her family. Of course, he wanted to be next to his, and you know how that goes. You lose.
Right.
So they come back here, come out here, and then my father followed. But I think Uncle Tony and Lucy was a wonderful woman. I don't know whether they were born here or married here in the old country. But regardless, one of her sons, my cousin there, we were talking about it, he thinks that was probably an arranged marriage. And he got a break there. She was a wonderful woman. And he got rheumatoid arthritis and couldn't work. She raised 8 kids. She worked, kept house, sent them to school, the whole bit.
No kidding.
Yeah, he couldn't work. He had one leg, must have been an inch and a half shorter than the other. And
Really?
he couldn't get a job. If he got a job, he couldn't work. They were both illiterate. Where here we got a break, my mother was literate.
Right.
But then, I don't know who you're going to show these things to. How?
Oh, it's just for the family, so.
Yeah, well, there's some things that might be a little derogatory. The Paradisers wouldn't like it, but they ought to hear it. It's too late for them to hear it. But anyway, sometimes, some of these stories I'm not sure of. I don't think the marriage between my father and mother was arranged, but those girls, my mother, Aunt Maggie, Aunt Mary, and Marion, looks to me, just looking from the outside in, or maybe from the inside in, looks like they couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. My mother went to work 12 years old after she got out of the 8th grade. They sent her to work down the salt plant, piecework. You know what piecework is?
No.
You work by the unit. They used to sew these bags, cloth bags, got so penny or whatever it was per bag, and they'd go like hell, these women. There was one, I used to see them there. One fill, one sew, another one put them in the cartons and cases and like that. It was dog work. But anyway, she did that, and she used to bring home more money than her father. And my grandmother would take her pay, give her a quarter out of $10, $12 a week. Hell, her father was only making $8, $9. Those girls I saw them, boy, their hands were whizzes. So she took all her pay. When her sons got in trouble gambling and needed money, she'd give them the money. This is the part they wouldn't like to hear. But I'll tell you, when they got married, my mother and father got married, how they got together, I couldn't tell you. You know, it's been traditional through the ages that women's parents pay for the weddings.
Right.
Well, from what I could see and gather, and I'm quite sure of it, my father paid for everything. They had a big bash over there on 3rd Street where, mother and father lived for quite a long time there, my grandfather's house. They had a big bash. They had an orchestra, whole bit.
No kidding.
Yeah, 'cause she was the first one married in that family. See, she was
Okay.
next to the oldest. Ratsy, her brother, was 3 years older. He was born in the old country. But yeah, and from what I hear, and they never made too much of it. My grandfather didn't pay for a goddamn thing. My father paid for everything.
Huh.
Then a couple of years later, of course, we came along, Nick and I. But my grandmother and grandfather, now my mother's mother and father, they come over here, let's see. My grandmother was pregnant in 1900, and he shipped her over here. She was pregnant with her oldest son there. His name was, with the English, literal English translation would be Horatio.
Okay.
They called him Ratsy. And she was pregnant with him. They put her on a train for Naples, and they put her on the boat. Then in New York, they put her on a train, and the New York Central up here. I don't know where the New York Central Railroad is up here in the hill.
Yeah.
She couldn't read, couldn't write. Must have been a scary thing. What they did was pin a note to her, and these notes would say where she was to end up. And then the conductor on the New York Central, the way they told me, would wake them up and tell them to get off the train at their station. That was New York Central up here. So she had this little note. And then my grandfather, who was already here, he had sent her the money to come over. He picked her up, and they lived in a company house up there on Station Road.
Okay.
That's right across from the railroad tracks and across from the Glen on the north side of the road.
Yeah, I saw
entrance.
pictures of some of those houses not too long ago. I found a picture of those buildings up there, those houses up there.
Yeah, they were company houses, railroad.
I never knew there were houses up there until just a little while ago.
Yeah. Then that's where let's see, my mother was born. Yeah, she was born up there. And they already had Ratsy, the oldest one. My mother was one of twins. I suppose you heard that.
Yep.
And her twin sister died when she was 4 months old. There's a peculiar story about that. My grandmother, I didn't put too much stock in what she said. She's liable to stretch the truth all to hell. But my grandfather, he swears it was right. They had the twins. They were about 4 months old at this time, my mother and her twin sister in bed with them. And they put them, the bed was in a corner, and they put the girls, so they couldn't fall out of bed, they put them on the side of the wall, where the wall was. And she said, my grandmother said she woke up one night and there was only one there. These were 4 months old, couldn't get along by themselves, got panicky, looked around, found the baby under the bed in the corner, dead. They called the neighbors, Fennels, Irish people. They were pretty nice people, I guess, and they helped them with the rest of that. My mother lived, and then they come downtown here. Well, that was, you know all of them from then on. But those girls there, my mother and the three sisters, looked like they couldn't wait to get out of there. They were taken advantage of. And there was a lot of that sort of thing with the girls, especially in this country. The old timers would make them work, and the boys did about as they pleased. So Nick Ratsy and Joe and Stretch, they did about as they pleased, and they worked the hell out of the girls. Well, first chance they got, Aunt Maggie, I think, was 16. She got married down in, I think it was Sarah Athens down in there. And Aunt Mary, well, she went to college. She's the only one. She went over to, she went to Park College, Missouri, and then took graduate work over here at Cornell. So she didn't get married till way late in life, 40s.
Really?
Yeah, never had any kids. She married a divorced guy. He had three kids. Then, let's see, after Mary was my mother, Aunt Maggie. Aunt Maggie, I skipped. Yeah, no, she got married down in Sarah Athens. Then Marion at 16, run away and got married. She married your grandmother's brother.
Right.
You know him.
Yep.
Oh, there was some hell raising that time. He was 17 and a half or something like that. They had no way to make a living. They didn't know one end from the other, but they got married anyway. And oh, jeez, there was hell to pay. both sides. Well, they made out all right.
I was gonna say it worked out in the long run. They said.
Yeah. So that's what, they got the hell out of there as soon as they could, because they were just working them to death the way it looked to me. That was my mother's people. The rest of them you knew from then on. A lot of the cousins. My father's, I don't, like I say, I don't know a lot other than what I just told you. His brother in Geneva had 8 kids. Raised 7 of them. One got killed in the Korean War. One of the twins.
Yeah, it was the guy that we hire for the bank. He plays music for the bank once a week at a couple of our events. He grew up across the street from him and remembered him.
Oh yeah.
Remember when he got killed in the war?
Yeah,
he was telling me about it a few weeks ago.
Yeah, 1952. I was there the night they brought his body back. Yeah.
So now, Grandpa Frank, he was in World War I, right?
Oh yeah, after, what did I say, 1913 he got here. And of course the First World War broke out April 1st, I think it was, 1914. In 1917, he was working, I don't know if he was working at Watkins Solar on the railroad, but anyway, they approached him and said, you can become a citizen if you want to serve in the American Army. And you won't have to go through all that crap there they had to go through to be a citizen. So he jumped at it. He got drafted, accepted it, and went to France, and I don't know, 9-10 months, something like that. He come back. He was a citizen. I got his papers around here someplace if I didn't lose them. Yeah. Of course, like I say, I don't know how he and my mother got together, but I expect there was some monkey shines there, because my grandmother and grandfather and my father's parents, they come from the same town.
Okay.
And her people, you know Specchio Ford up here?
Right.
His grandfather and my grandmother are first cousins. And then Ted Specchio, there's a lot of Specchios around, they all come from that same town. So I expect there was some push in there, you know, to get them together, because
Right.
my mother was 19 when they got married, and my father was 33.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't
14.
realize they were that far apart.
Yeah, 14 years. See, my grandmother and grandfather, they were only 4 months apart, 4 or 5 months. January to May, yeah, 5 months. But see, he was going to marry her in 1896. I think it was. 1875, yeah. He was 20 or 21. Instead of getting married, he got drafted. Yes, he had to serve 4 years. Then they got married, and of course they had Ratsy. He was in the old country. He was born there. My grandfather left her there. Well, she was pregnant and come here and went to work, saved enough money to send it to her to come over, like I told you, on the trains, ships and trains. Then they had 7 more kids. Well, actually they had 11 altogether, but 3 of them died. My mother's twins, and there was twin boys born, I think, between Mary and Joe. Mary, let's see, she was 5 years younger than my mother, and Joe was 12 years younger, yeah. So in there someplace they had time for another set of twins. They both died. That wasn't uncommon in those days. Infant mortality was pretty high.
Right.
But that's most of what I can remember about the Paradiso clan. But I know they took advantage of my father, something terrible. He was, I guess, easy pickings. They had a bakery over here on Porter Street. I don't know if anybody ever pointed it out to you.
No, I didn't know that in Porter.
Well, you know where your uncle lives there on the corner? April's brother?
Yeah.
The next place down was a bakery.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. the oldest son there, Rassie, he run that bakery, had a good business too. And one time it